Hello everyone, my name's James. I'm 17. And my story proves the accuracy of the expression, beware of your desires. For the one you desire may turn out to be a sociopath and try to ruin your life. But let's start from the very beginning. This story began from my innocent desires to earn some money. I was 15, and I planned to work as a volunteer for an art festival with my friends during my upcoming summer vacation. I desperately needed my own car, because the festival was located out in the country. I searched for a job, but nobody seemed to be eager to hire me, except for a beauty store and a shopping mall. I wasn't into all of these beauty products, but I had no choice, so I agreed. I worked together with two girls, and they taught me to put makeup on customers and on myself. I started applying various makeup styles at work, just for fun. Cat eye was my favorite. I looked like a sexy pirate. And girls admired me, by the way. So anyways, one evening, I was very late for a family dinner. It was my mother's birthday, and we went to a fancy restaurant. I arrived with flowers and apologized. The first thing that my father asked was, "What's wrong with your face?" I realized that I'd forgotten to wash off my glittery, smoky eyes. Father forced me to go to the toilet to wash my face. When I returned to the table, my parents were having a heated discussion about LGBTQ rights. My mother insisted that my dad should be more respectful, and my dad hinted that they both knew perfectly well what the reason was for this fight. I was completely surprised and confused. This awkward silence was broken by a message. Someone texted my mum to say happy birthday, and my father said, "Speak of the devil, and she will appear." It was the final straw. My mother got very serious and told my dad that she wanted to divorce. Then she hugged and kissed me and left the table. I asked my father to explain what had just happened. It turned out that my mum had been dating our neighbour Sarah behind our backs for many years, and my father had recently caught them. I couldn't believe my ears. I thought that if someone in my family would ever cheat, it would be my dad, because he was one of those annoying ladies' men. But my mum? With Sarah? The waiters brought a birthday cake and sang a song to my missing mum. Well, I began to cry because I was too overwhelmed by the news. They seemed totally confused. My mum didn't sleep at home that night. Instead, she arrived early in the morning and made my favourite pancakes. It was then that I heard her version of the story. She fell in love with Sarah a long time ago, but decided to stay with my dad because she was so afraid of hurting me. She offered me a chance to live with two mums. Honestly, I couldn't get mad at her or protest, so I just said yes. At least my parents had stopped being so boring. They divorced very quickly, and I moved into Sarah's house with my mum. 3 months after that birthday disaster, my mum and Sarah had a wedding. But for me, the most pleasurable news was that Sarah's 19-year-old daughter Betty was also attending the wedding. She'd been kicked out of college and moved back home. I'd always liked her when I was younger, and I was very excited to live together in one house. I helped the ladies with their wedding makeup. My hands started shaking while applying makeup to Betty's face. She was confident, charming, and flirting with me, as usual. The wedding was very touching. I've never seen my mum so happy. Even my dad drove in to congratulate the brides, although he sulked in front of my mum. Since that day, I've been desperately in love with Betty. I thought she liked me too, but she had a very strange way of showing it. I was so naive. At first, she gave me different little tasks. To go to the grocery store, to wash dishes, to help her with video editing. But then her tasks developed into extreme forms of slavery. I ended up cleaning her room and washing her clothes, doing her makeup for photo sessions and parties. I always had to cover for her with her mums. She wanted to become a model or a video blogger and had a hard time with getting a paid job. So she often borrowed money from my car savings and never paid me back. I know, it sounds ridiculous, but there was something inside me that just hoped she was an injured, unhappy girl who just craved understanding and love. And I tried to gain her trust. One day, when Betty was out partying, I went into her room to put her iron clothes on a shelf. I noticed her diary buried under some clothes. I sort of hesitated for a moment, but then I took the diary out and read it. And thank God I did! Not only did she not love me, but she called me her handmaid. She had tons of guys according to her notes, but the most interesting part was her secret affair with someone called Mr. X. She described his intimate skills in detail, but it was completely unclear who this guy was. I was triggered when I saw this written down. My handmaid and his stupid mother have no idea. Reading this diary crushed me, but I wanted to know the whole truth. One night, I saw Betty on her way to a date, and I followed her, secretly. But she went to a place that I least expected. My father's house! I saw through a gap in the curtain how my father let her in and poured her a glass of wine. Yikes! At first, I wanted to run away before I saw something that I could never unsee. But then, that phrase from the diary popped into my mind. I turned around. I needed to talk to my father immediately. It took a while for him to open the door, but when he finally did, I went in, sat on the sofa, and asked him to not hide Betty. Dad blushed and got very nervous, but Betty had already left through the back door. Dad asked me to keep this secret from my mums, but I insisted that they should know, and then my father made an offer that I couldn't refuse. He panicked and offered me a car. I still didn't have enough money to buy one by myself, because Betty had emptied almost all of my savings. Meanwhile, my vacation was supposed to start in 2 weeks, and I took the chance. The next day, I received a shiny new car as a gift from my dad, and Betty pretended to be unfamiliar with her agreement. I was so glad to escape from my family issues for a while. I left home for 2 months and had a great time volunteering at a festival, where I met Mary, my first girlfriend. But when I returned home, Betty was pregnant in her 5th month. My mum and Sarah didn't know who the father was because Betty refused to discuss that. I called my dad, but he told me he didn't know who the father was either. I tried to find Betty's diary once again, but she'd hid it too well this time. So, I started a new school year, and sometimes my mother asked me to take care of Betty after classes. But I didn't want to be her handmaid anymore. I preferred spending as much time with Mary as I could. But after a while, Mary suddenly broke up with me, without explaining the reason. I was very upset. After 4 months, Betty gave birth to a beautiful boy. She named him Zach. The grandmother seemed much happier than Betty herself. They prepared a beautiful room for Zach, and did everything for him, while Betty quickly recovered from her pregnancy and resumed her partying. When Zach was 4 months old, Betty announced that she had a new boyfriend. She said that he helped her getting a new job in Hollywood, so she was going to move. With that new job, Betty had no time for her own baby. So, Sarah and my mum agreed to take care of Zach and raise him like their own, until Betty became independent. That next December, we celebrated Zach's birthday and Christmas together. Betty visited him for the first time since her relocation. On top of that, she never sent any money to support the baby, saying that LA was too expensive. During the dinner, our mothers criticized Betty for not paying attention to Zach, but Betty was calm and confident as usual. She told them to ask Zach's father for help, and pointed her finger at me. Yes, this sociopath lied and said that I was the real father of Zach, and that was why she'd been keeping silent. I couldn't believe that I used to love this girl. Of course, our mother started a huge drama. I couldn't think of anything better than to just leave the table and run away from that house. I spent the rest of my Christmas at my father's place. We talked a lot. I shared my suspicions about who the father of the baby was. The thing is, the baby pictures of Zach and my father look almost identical. I was sure that my nephew was my brother at the same time. Dad also seemed very concerned as he compared the pictures. Obviously, the time to confess had come. When Betty left for LA, we went over to Sarah's house together. Dad told them about his affair with Betty to clear my reputation. Mum was furious, but Sarah calmed her down and apologized for her daughter and her unusual character. After yelling, crying, and accusing each other for a while, my parents decided to make up, act like adults, and do a paternity test. The test confirmed that my dad was Zach's father. And then, this strange family lived happily ever after. When the truth was revealed, my mother told my dad, "Thanks for giving me another beautiful son. Sarah and Mum have continued taking care of the baby, while Dad sends child support and visits Zach on the weekends. Everybody loves this child, except for his mother, who refused to comment on the situation. Honestly, even after Sarah sent her the copies of the DNA test. Meanwhile, Mary began to talk to me again, and I learned the actual reason for our breakup. When I was dating Mary, Betty didn't like that, so she caught me when I was sleeping in my bed and took a selfie with me. We looked like a happy, sleepy couple in bed together. I remember that day, but I didn't attach any importance to it. Betty was fooling around the whole time, but it was significant. Betty sent this picture to my girlfriend with the question, "I'm his actual girlfriend. Who the heck are you, Mary?" Mary got that message and decided that she must have meant nothing to me, and left. Now, I'm trying to fix my relationship with her, and I promised myself to never ever trust a sociopath again, even if they seem cute at first.